validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. So here on This and That today, we're going to be talking about can single parents find love again? And we're going to be going into that topic. It's going to be a pretty interesting topic. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you come through. Make note that we do have a guest coming onto the show on Wednesday. We're going to be starting at exactly 40 minutes ago because we're going to be starting at the top of the hour. So it'll be 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. For those of you that want to come in and ask her questions, she's going to be providing some dating advice, some relationship advice based on her occupation as a dating coach. So we encourage you guys to swing back by on Wednesday. We are live 7 nights a week. Normally we operate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, talking about business and finance and investing. Thursday through Saturday, we talk about personal development, relationship development, networking. And then on Sunday is our members only show. But this particular week, we're going to have a little bit of a flip. And Wednesday, we're going to be doing our guest star with the dating coach. And then Thursday, we'll be talking about different countries that we can invest in and live in. So we're going to be covering all of our bases throughout the week. And then we'll be back on our regular schedule. Make notes that if you're watching us from Twitter, X, you can see us, click that link there, or if you're watching us from Twitch, you can click that link there. And then the rest of you that's watching us on YouTube, if you click that link there, approve the mic, approve the camera, it'll bring you into our green room and we'll be able to see you in real time. And if in the event that you're over the age of 18, I can see that, then I can put you up onto the screen and you guys can say what you want to say in real time. Now, those of you that just feel comfortable with throwing your comments in the comment section, you can do so, putting your comments into the comment section. And when you do that, if those comments are appropriate, you'll see those comments up above from all three platforms. We have yet to partner with TikTok because we have not confirmed the sale of TikTok for ByteDance to the United States yet. We did see the special bulletin about Donald Trump and Elon Musk having a falling out yesterday, right before the show. So I'm going to be gathering all the details as to why that happened and what are the ongoing effects of that. Is Doge dismantled as a result of this? What all is going to go down since these two billionaires are having a beef and where that beef came from? We understand that at the same time, yesterday there was a riot that had some officials in a government building that wasn't able to go anywhere. So I understand you guys want to know what happened everywhere, because yesterday seemed to be a very chaotic day. In June, it's not even a holiday, but we will figure it out. We'll get all the information for you, and we'll be trying to cover as much of it as possible Monday night. So stay tuned for that. And remember, by today being Saturday, tomorrow is our questions and comments from the fans. So if you guys have any questions about anything under the sun, make sure that you guys ask in the comment section, and I'll give you the best answer that I possibly can. And anything that turns into a good topic for a show, I'll do some extensive research on it and cover it in the upcoming show. With that being said, make sure that you note that we do not let the sun rise without going live. So while we normally are supposed to tick this bad boy off about 45 minutes ago, sometimes we air it a little bit late, but we do air every night of the week. So if the show is still pending and you haven't seen it going live, just hang out a little bit, throw some comments into the comment section, trigger us to start a little bit sooner, and you'll see us come live that day. Anything that we have on the show is recorded real time, including the comment section. So if you miss any information, stock investment tips, stock options, or any other information that's being provided when I put that information into the comment section, you can always go back and rewatch the show, and the comment section will replay in real time. So you'll be able to go back to that portion of the show where that information was and be able to retrieve everything out of the comment section, which helps you guys be able to follow through with any information or advice that you get from the show. So just make sure that you pay attention to that, because we do throw stock tips and trade information into the comment section on all the platforms. So if you guys are watching us from Twitch or Twitter, you will have to come over to YouTube and come and get all of that information after the show goes off air. Now, let's get things started. We want to make sure that you guys understand that we just got to be real. Dating is challenging for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter what gender or race you are, dating is extremely challenging, especially in modern times with social media apps, dating apps, and the large plethora of individuals that get onto those apps without the desire for long-term commitment, saturating the and compromising the dating field, which interferes with people's ability to find true love first time around. It's like going fishing for a fish that's hungry after feeding time. It's hard to find. But we have to understand that while we've been talking about being single and the difference between dating as a man versus dating as a woman, there are people that are having even more trouble dating, and those are the people that are trying to date as single parents. And I can tell you that it can feel like you're climbing a mountain with a backpack full of bricks, the kids, right? You're juggling the responsibilities of parenthood, the emotional baggage of past relationships, especially if you have not been able to resolve that emotional baggage because you're prioritizing the needs of the kids, and the hope that you might just find someone who understands and accepts your unique journey. But despite all the hurdles, millions of single parents around the world are proving that love after kids isn't just possible, it can be deeply rewarding. And think about how I know a lot of us can remember back in the day where at least one of the two parents after separation spent the rest of their life single. They just did not go back out there and try again. But a lot of us can recognize that at least one of the parents, if not both of them, ended up finding happiness with somebody else and potentially ending up getting married and starting up a whole nother family. It is possible. According to a 2025 Pew Research Center report, over 30% of households in the US are now headed by single parents, and nearly half of all single parents say they're open to dating or actively seeking a new relationship. That's a huge community of people who understand your struggles and your dreams. But let's not sugarcoat it, though. The challenges are definitely real. A survey by Match.com in 2024 found that 67% of single parents cite lack of time as their biggest obstacle to dating, while 54% worry about how dating will affect their children. And then there's the emotional side, feelings of guilt, anxiety, and the ever-present questions: am I being selfish for wanting love again? Right? Because we've seen it in the movies, we've seen it on TV. Some of us have even done it ourselves. If one parent moves on and the other parent does not, the children typically are bitter towards the parent that moves on because the children are not adapting to the change, and the children would prefer that the parents get back together, not understanding that there are deep-seated unresolvable issues between the two adults where they are not capable at this time to come together. This lack of understanding from the children could make the adults feel guilty for trying to find happiness with someone other than the children's parents, which could end up leaving the parent in a stagnant position of not finding happiness until the children are adults and have moved on. That's not necessarily the best thing for the parent. And a lot of times parents say, well, we got to make sacrifices for the kids. The sacrifices that you make for the children are not supposed to sacrifice you to the magnitude where you're not capable of functioning for the children. That's something that people have to recognize. But being a single parent means your heart is already divided between all of your children, your own needs, and potentially the other parent when the needs of the children have to come from the other parent. Introducing a new partner into your life can stir up a whirlwind of emotions, not just for you, but for your kids too. According to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, children of single parents often need extra reassurance and time to adjust to a parent's new relationship. This adjustment period can last anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on the child's age and temperament. And let's not forget about the fear of judgment. Friends, family, and even strangers can have opinions about your choices. But here's the powerful statistic: 72% of single parents who found love again say their children eventually adapted and even thrived in blended families, especially when the transition was handled with patience and open communication. So, in spite the objections from the kids, that particular parent did it anyway, saw it through, and over time, the kids grew towards it and accepted it. Time is the number one barrier for single parents, whether it be the availability to make something like this happen or the endurance to see it through. Between school runs, soccer practice, homework, and bedtime routines, where do you find the hours for romance? According to a 2025 survey by Single Parent Meet, 41% of single parents schedule dates during their children's sleepovers or time with other parents, while 28% rely on trusted babysitters or family members. So either you're allowing your children to go and spend time by their friend's house so that you can go out and have a good time, or you're leaving your kids with somebody that you hopefully trust so that you can go out and try to enjoy life while your kids are at home with the babysitter. Now, here are some practical tips that make dating work as a single parent. And then I'm going to give you guys something to think about real quick. If you plan ahead and use shared calendars and schedule dates in advance, this is something that's going to aid you in being able to make sure that you're not putting yourself in two places at one time. And if you embrace daytime dates, such as coffee or brunch or a walk in the park, this can be just as romantic as an evening dinner. But while going on daytime dates, while the child is in school, when the parent is available, or while the child is at practice that you're not required to monitor or something to that effect, where you're not needed. So this gives you the ability to be occupied by romance and not abandon your roles as a parent. These are the things that you need to be able to factor in. And then get creative with virtual dates, such as video call, online games, or streaming a movie together. Netflix just came out recently, and I say recently, but some of you might have experienced it over the last couple of months, that you can send a link from the movie you're watching to somebody else, and y'all can watch the same movie together. Now, I have not seen how picture-in-picture is going to affect that scenario where you can watch the person and the movie at the same time, but also understand that the overheating feature of your phone is going to disconnect one of those if you've got a video call streaming and a movie playing in the background at the same time. However, if you're utilizing two different devices where you're streaming the movie off of like your tablet or something like that, and you're video calling from your cell phone, it is possible for you to still have a romantic movie with popcorn with the person that you're interested in at the house by yourself with the kids, all at the same time. Okay. And this can help you connect even when you can't leave the house. So there's always a way, but you have to learn how to lean on your support network. And you got to just don't be afraid to ask a friend or a family member to help with childcare. One of the most important lessons I've learned and that experts agree on is the value of honesty from the very beginning. Not to mention, parents need a break. We have talked on this show plenty of times about how stay-at-home moms complain about the fact that they spend so much time at the house with the kids all day, and then when the husband gets home or the father gets home, that the stay-at-home mom needs a break, and that break requires the husband or the boyfriend to come home and start taking care of the kids immediately after work. No disrespect to them, they need a break. All parents need a break. In relationships where they're splitting the roles and one person's going to take day shift and the other person's going to take night shift, they still need to find time to get a second person in there, to tag in a third person in there, and have an alternative where both of them can take a break at the same time and spend time together to not only secure the relationship, because you're not together duty bound for the children, you're supposed to be a cohesive family. So the goal is for the parents to find time to leave the children with someone that they trust and replenish the energy to get back to the children, because otherwise you'll end up being at your wit's end. You'll get overly frustrated, short-tempered, and start snapping at your children. And that's going to make your children not like you because you're angry at something that has nothing to do with the kids. So let's remember that. Make sure that you be upfront about the entire situation. According to eHarmony's 2025 dating trends report, profiles that mention children receive 23% fewer initial engagements. 23%. but those connections are 2.5 times more likely to turn into meaningful relationships. So while you're going to have a lower quantity of connections, the connections that you're going to end up with are going to end up being more meaningful. And this is something that I have been observing from the parties that comment on the show every Sunday, where men and women alike are fed up with the online dating environment because there are less uh, long-term follow-throughs. I think we've only had like one or two success stories out of the last year. Most of the people that are complaining, and some of them right now have been, I do believe, complaining about Hinged. They used to complain about Bumble, but now they're complaining about Hinged. And the thing is that there's what 7 or 8 billion people around the world, and when you start using a website, that connects you to the entire world's population. The rejection rate of men is still going to be a percentage. But when you're looking at that percentage, like a man might be successful 2% of the time. If the man is successful 2% of the time, that means that in order for him to get 100 hits, he's probably going to have to talk to 20,000 to get 20,000 rejections or more. Think about the fact that the more you try, it's the Quagmire method. The more you try, the more likely you're going to succeed. It's a numbers game. But quantity is still going to demoralize you. The quality of the ones that you do get provides you with hope that there is a possibility to find better and do more. But the gaps in between those relationships that you perceived could have been meaningful, it's very discouraging. So getting 27% less contacts simply because you have children would encourage some people to not notify that they have kids on the dating platform just so that they could connect with the individual. They'll get good into the relationship and then break the ice that this person has kids. That teeters on the potential for the progress that you've made with this dating to be catastrophic. Because if they didn't know that you had kids and they weren't interested in kids, the time that you spent is wasted. However, you come to find that more often than not, when you put the fact that you are a single parent on the platform, they will potentially reject you before they get a chance to dive into the fact that you might actually have really good kids. This is because you're attracting people who are genuinely ready for realities of dating a parent when you find those connections that are willing to stick it out with you after being honest about the fact of being parents, instead of those individuals who were looking for a good time or who were looking for a commitment that did not involve children. And those individuals find out that there's more responsibility than they were prepared to take on, and then they bail out. So when you do meet someone special, take your time before introducing them to your child. The American Psychological Association recommends waiting until you're confident in the relationship stability, usually after several months of consistent dating, before making introductions to the children. So it is possible, if they're a single parent and you're a single parent, to have play dates between your kids and their kids. The problem that you're going to have with that is that your relationship is going to be contingent to how the kids get along. Because if the kids are always fighting, you can't parent their kids and they can't parent your kids, you're going to come to the defense of your kids, they're going to come to the defense of their kids, and that's going to put a wedge between your relationship. So you want to make sure that you solidify a unified front from the adults first, where when you decide that you're bringing the kids together, that it's going to be a co-parenting scenario where you guys will be parenting the kids equally to prevent any misinterpretations from the children. Now, this protects children's emotional security and gives your new relationship space to grow. Not to mention, a lot of children who have a revolving door of dates lose confidence in the stability of having a consistent parent. Because while the parent that has primary possession of them is that primary parent, regardless of if it's a mom or a dad, the fact is that mom's boyfriend or dad's girlfriend is yet another person in a long line of failed engagements. So reducing the exposure to the children until you are certain that this is something that is going to last, or reasonably positive that it's going to be long lasting, then you introduce that person to the kids, which takes a lot of to doing. The world of dating has changed dramatically in the last decade. So in 2025, over 60% of single parents who start new relationships are starting to meet them online. And according to the Global Dating Insight Report, apps like Bumble, Hinge, and Single Parent Meet have dedicated filters for parents, making it easier to find people who understand your lifestyle. But don't overlook offline opportunities, because community events, parenting groups, volunteering, parenting conferences, school functions, and even your kids' activities after school can be great places to meet like-minded people. Because again, if your kids are getting along with their kids, it's easier for you two to get along. A 2024 study by the University of Michigan found that single parents who participate in community activities are 37% more likely to form new romantic connections than those who rely solely on dating apps. So if you're trying to date someone who has children, that is a completely different perspective than the person who is trying to find a relationship while being a parent. And again, let's get real for a second, because dating someone with kids is a whole different ball game than just dating somebody. And if you're thinking about stepping into the world of dating a parent, you've got to ask yourself some tough questions. Are you ready to share your parenting time and attention? So are you capable of having your the attention of your partner split between you and one or many kids? Or would you prefer for this person to give you their undivided attention on a regular basis because you're less important when there are children involved, right? Because their kids in the picture will come first, always. You guys got to remember that. And let's be honest, you might find yourself stepping into a role in the kids' lives, even if you're not the main parent. So before you dive in, check in with yourself and ask yourself, are you up for this particular type of challenge? Special shout out to Nico. Nico, it's been a while since you've been here, buddy. We've been covering so many different shows. We've got some investment opportunities for you. We've got all kind of things going on, man. It's good. You definitely come in on Wednesday, because we've got Sarah Ruiz. She's going to be doing some questions and answers on Wednesday about dating and relationships and stuff. So since you've come through and you've had a lot of nifty insight, it will be good for you to dive in and be able to ask some very nifty questions. But we got some lag going on here. Nico said, I believe you couldn't do it the first time. You probably can't do it again. Well, there's a plus and a minus about dating. So if you have children, your relationship failed, you're parenting the kids, and you decide that you're going to go back out and try again, it is possible for you to accidentally find somebody or deliberately seek somebody to find you with some fulfillment. A lot of adults who parent their children don't actually start looking for fulfillment in a relationship until the children are teenagers, specifically because they're too busy. The moms might be approached by guys, but dads who have the kids don't actively seek partnerships until the children are starting to separate themselves from the nest. So you'll see kids that are spending more time with their friends, study abroad, summer schools, summer camps, and all of these things where they're doing activities away from the house, where dad is spending more time at the house, and sometimes mom is spending more time at the house by themselves. And that is when they start trying to find something to do, which leads them into finding a relationship. And that usually 15 through 18 is when you start seeing the parents really get out there and actively look for companionship, because they can't overwhelm themselves with the duties of children, because once the children become more self-sufficient, your role as a parent in their lives is just to provide them with reasonable guidance, and food. But the more they're independent, the less they depend on you, and the less they depend on you, the more free time you have. The more free time to have, the more free time that you can go and find somebody else. So when Nico believes that if you couldn't do it the first time, you probably can't do it again. I'm going to be honest with you. If your first relationship fails at 17 years old, that doesn't mean you're never going to try to date again. Okay. If your first breakup occurs at 22, that doesn't mean that you're never going to date again. It might be a couple weeks, couple months, couple years before you date again. It might be almost a decade before you actively start searching for another individual. But if the right person presents themselves to you as interested in you, you're not going to turn them away, even if you don't proactively press the issue. You will reactionary. It's a reaction that you will have, that you will allow them to engage you until you have developed a desire to continue this situation. So it's still a position where there's going to be another go round. If you've got one kid, you probably shouldn't try for another. But if you've got one kid or three kids, and you decide to get out there and go and look for another partner, it is possible for you to get out there and find somebody who's willing to accept the quantity of kids that you have in your household and be able to project to you the amount of compassion that you need, the patience that you need, the patience that is the kids and the kids' behavior, whether they are cooperative or disruptive. And then if you're the type of parent that has the patience for your partner who might find frustration with the behavior of the kids, all of this cohesiveness can lead to a positive relationship. But there isn't a scenario where you shouldn't try again. You might not try again in this area. You might not try again in this social network, but there isn't a reason why you shouldn't try again ever, anywhere. And it's not an expectation where once you have a handful of kids that you should just stay single forever and let your kids become adults before you decide to go out and find happiness again. Because really thinking about it, y'all, since we're dropping children later in age, we're not having babies the way we used to do back in the 80s, where a 16-year-old would have a mother of two scenario, or a 17-year-old would be a mother of three scenario, where by the time she's 35, the kids are grown with their own children. So she's a grandmother at 35 and a great grandmother at 45. That's not how things are right now. How things are right now is that the adults are having children in their mid to late 30s, which means there's a 40-year gap between the children and the adults. So by the time the children are 20, the adults are in their 60s and 70s. See what I'm saying? And that is an issue. 50 at the lowest, 55, 60, the kids are in their 20s. 70, 65 and 70, the kids are in their 30s. So if you're still alive, you're grandparents to a newborn at 72. The age gaps are starting to become drastic. So you can't say that a 35 or 40-year-old is going to just hang up being happy for the remainder of their life and not find any type of happiness until they're like 85. That's unrealistic expectations. You just have to find the right dynamic to make that work. But one thing that we have to do is we have to talk about respecting your partner's parenting role, because their kids is their world. That is what it is. And that means that plans can change in a heartbeat. Flexibility isn't just a nice to have, it's a must. So one of the things, but you also have to prioritize your own self in these situations as well, because like I talked to you guys about this time last year, even if they have children, they have to show some level of prioritization for you. For example, if you set up a date and they have to cancel because of the kids, that's fine, cancel. They should set up the next date. That shows proactively that they are trying to work around the chaos that the children are having. If they're covering the reservation, if they have to cancel and they're losing their reservation investment, that's fine, because they're proactively showing you, hey, I'm not jerking your chain here. I really do want to meet up with you, but things are unstable where I am. We have to work on these things. But here's a couple pro tips for you. Don't try to swoop in and change how they parent or mess with their routine, because that is going to cause a rebellion. Unless you're specifically asked for help, let them do their thing. Don't even offer advice. How they feel. Empathetic, not sympathetic, is the position that you need to be. When it comes to meeting the kids, slow your roll. Wait until your relationship is serious before you introduce yourself. Rushing this step can be super confusing for the kids and stressful for everyone, which ultimately could lead to complications where a lot of times the rebellion of the kids who have not adapted to the idea could cause the kids to sabotage the success of your relationship. So when you finally do meet the kids, be friendly and be patient. And remember, trust is going to take time to build. You might want to start by meeting the kids in a location where the kids can have fun, not just necessarily a dry park. You can take them to an amusement park. You can take them to a gaming room. You can take them somewhere that is designed for the kids to have fun, where you can start off having fun with the kids, playing games and connecting with the kids on the kids' level, where it is not a super serious in-person, face-to-face kind of scenario where there's a lot of interrogation going on and the lack of comfort from the kids and the awkward silence. You can actually break the ice by taking them to a Chuck E. Cheese or something to that effect. I don't even know if Chuck E. Cheese is still around anymore, but that's what we used to do back in the day when we were kids. Take the kids to the Chuck E. Cheese, have them meet the new person. Communication is always going to be key here. You want to sit down early and talk about what you both expect in the relationship and how involved you plan to be in this relationship. What do you want the kids to know about you, and how will you handle the disagreements with the children? And keep those lines of communication wide open. If something is bothering you, speak up about it. Honesty, again, is your best friend here in this particular type of situation. You do not want misunderstandings or lack of proper communication to cause an uprising, because the children will rebel before your partner does. And here's a big one. Support, don't divide. This is a situation where I've said it before, co-parenting requires a unified front. Whenever one parent makes a decision, the other parent backs that up, even if they don't agree with it. In order for that decision to be overturned, the parent that made the decision must overturn the decision. There is no reason why you should play two against the middle where the children are relying on the favoritism of the parent that will say yes to bypass the authority of the parent that says no, or vice versa. So don't get jealous of your partner's co-parenting if you're in a situation where your partner is being received more effectively by the children than you are. A healthy co-parenting relationship is good for the kids. So be a cheerleader, not a troublemaker. Encourage positive relationships between your partner and their ex, and between you and the kids, because that is always going to be a key thing. Because once any relationship develops between the parent of the children and someone outside of the family, the other parent of the children typically develop jealous behavior and start acting inappropriately. Not all of them do it, but it does happen quite a lot. And since it does, you being on the outside of this dysfunctional family looking in, you want to be supportive of the ex still being involved in the children's lives, because that is the children's biological parent. You never want to push the biological parent out of the children's life or alienate that biological parent from the children, because the children always need their biological parents, whether they're good parents or not, whether they make good decisions or not. The children should always know where their parents come from. Now, you want to make sure that you protect the kids from danger, but you don't want to prevent the kids from knowing who their parents are and knowing about their parents and their parents' way of life. And any time that they can spend with their parents, that is what you're supposed to advocate for, even if it has to be supervised visitation. You should work that in. Patience and realism are your new best friend here, because blending families isn't something that happens overnight. You can't see a Brady Bunch environment without extreme quantities of patience. It can take years, especially if there's conflict or a big adjustment that needs to be made. And let's be real, your weekends, holidays, and plans are going to look so much different from your friends who don't have kids in comparison to you now having kids. And that's just the way it is. There's not a way that you can change how things are going to be when you having kids versus the way things were when you didn't have kids. Night out on the town, drinks on the house turns into a night out at Denny's with shakes all over the place. That's kids night at Denny's or Golden Corral. You're working yourself into a scenario where things are just going to be different. That's just how it is. So here are some practical tips to keep in mind. Be flexible. Plans are going to change, but you just got to roll with them. You want to not make plans that cost money up front. You want to make plans that if in the event that you cancel those plans, you're not losing out on your investment for the plans. Once you start solidifying your relationship where it is a guarantee that your partner is capable of showing up, then you'll be able to make plans that cost money for a reservation, that costs money for advance tickets. But in the beginning, you want to make plans that can be spontaneous, that also can be disrupted. Speaking of, I want to talk about these dinner dates real quick. Being flexible. You go to the restaurant, you're taking the mother or father out on the date. The kids are at the house or with a friend or family member or whatever. These types of dates, you should be able to order the food and pay for it at the moment that you're ordering it, so that if in the event that you have to leave in a hurry, that you are not having to delay to pay for the check or risk walking out on the check. This gives you the ability to order your food, sit down, enjoy your meal. And if you get a phone call that you have to go, it's an emergency, you could just up and leave. I've talked to some people about that, having the capabilities, because Having an open check gives you the ability to continue to add stuff onto the bill. It also gives the server the ability to suggest a sale and continue to increase the ability to maintain profits if the salesperson is going to be getting commission off of the profits from tips. But we all understand that when we go out onto a restaurant, then we're sitting there having our meal. Leaving takes longer than getting in, because we have to wait for our waiter or waitress to show up to the table, tell them that we want the check. Then we have to wait for them to calculate how much everything costs for them to bring it back to the table. Then we have to wait for them to come back and get the thing to cash us out before we can sign for the check, since most of us are paying with a credit card, and then walk out of the door. And during that time of trying to check out, they're trying to sell us dessert. They're trying to sell us something else. They're trying to offer, and we're trying to go. Soon as you guys sit down and take the time to look over the menu for what you want, order everything that you're going to order, and pay for it in the immediate. By the time the comes to the table, you've paid for the food. If the phone rings and you've got to go and the food's already at the table, you can just go. You've eaten whatever you're going to eat, and then you've gone. Or if you're going to take the time to get a to-go bag and take the food with you, you can waste the time to get a to-go bag and take the food with you, but at least you're not spending that extra 15 minutes trying to cash out. It's just, let me get a to-go box for this. See what I'm saying? And just roll. But don't take canceled plans personally. Sometimes parenting just has to come first. And you have to understand that as a parent, you have to be on call. So even if you have a babysitter there, whether it's a friend, a family member, or trusted a babysitter from the neighborhood, there may be a scenario that you have to stop what you're doing and go back to the house. The same way a doctor or a truant officer or police officer is on call, you are on call as a parent, even though you're not home with the kids. The entire time that you're on the date, you're thinking about the kids. Are they okay? Is the babysitter doing well with the children? Are the children behaving? Are they tearing up the house? You're not going to not be thinking about these things, especially if you don't spend time without the kids on a regular basis, where you're not used to even not being away from your kids. That level of separation anxiety can also exacerbate your ability to manifest a positive relationship on a date, because you have to get used to not being with the kids when you normally would have been with the kids. So remember, if you're not the kid's parent, don't compete with the kids for attention. The same way I tell women, don't compete with a man's dog. If you make a man choose between you and his dog, he might get rid of you and get a second dog. But do not compete with the kids. Not for attention, not for affection. Wait your turn. The kids were here first. Let them get all the affection that they need. Let them get all the attention that they need, because kids have this habit of not wanting to be bothered. And when they don't want to be bothered, that is your time to get the undivided attention that you've been waiting for. So it's not a battle that you want to participate in, because let's be honest, you will not win that one. And also, if you force the parent to choose between you and the children, unless they have no consideration for the children at all, more often than not, they're going to consider you to be selfish. Now, if the children are grown, that's a different story. But if the children are in fact children, 2 through 12, 16, 17, you're less likely to be received if you're competing for attention with the child. Find creative ways to make time for your relationship. It might be less frequent, but it can still be meaningful. And if you're not comfortable with kids or sharing your life with the kids, that's totally okay. It's better to be honest with yourself and your partner before you jump in. And one of the things that you want to ask yourself is, do you really want to be with someone who has children? And are you really ready for a life that has these types of plans in it? And are you ready to change your life in this particular type of direction? Can you be patient and understanding as you build the relationship with the kids? And are you comfortable with your partner's ongoing relationship with their ex-partner? Because that's going to be a thing. I know a lot of us, when we're talking about dating and we're talking about, it's not a good idea to have your ex as your best friend. But when you're in a co-parenting situation, it's better for your ex to be your best friend, because if y'all are getting along, y'all can be more positive in front of the children. But for those that are outside looking in, the positivity between the two who already have an emotional history with one another could draw the fear and concern that rekindling can occur. And that has happened in the past. So you've got to be cautious with your approach, but also supportive. So let's talk real quick about the benefits, because I want to tell you guys why it's worth the effort. Because here is some good news. Single parents who find love again report higher levels of happiness, lower stress, and greater life satisfaction than those who remain single by choice, according to a 2025 Gallup poll. And children in happy blended families often find themselves benefiting from the increased levels of happiness, support, stability, and in situations where there is a positive role model to boot, that also increases the child's development. Dating as a single parent isn't just about finding a partner. It's about rediscovering yourself, modeling healthy relationships for your kids, and proving that hope and happiness are always within reach. So you have to remember that you're not alone. If you're a single parent looking for love, remember that you are in this with a plethora of individuals. Because as I told you guys before, there's 30% or more in America alone. Out of 365,000 individuals, 30+% is almost 120 or 130,000 Americans. Okay. So you're not in it alone. There's a whole community of parents out there facing the same challenges, sharing the same dreams, and cheering you on. So by being open, honest, and brave enough to take the first step, you're already on the path to something wonderful. So I want you guys to follow us as you dive into the world of dating as a single parent, and see if you can find love again. Because if you've got a story, a tip, or a question, and you drop them into the comments below, we'll be able to keep this conversation going. And if you want more advice on navigating the ups and downs of dating as a parent, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you share the video, make sure you slide by on Wednesday, because Sarah's going to be here providing you guys with a lot more exclusive dating tips. And Sarah is actually a parent. So not only will you be able to get those dating tips on how to get in there and communicate with others and find you that special someone, you also be able to get some inside scoop from an active dating coach who can tell you guys how to navigate while being a parent. Let's make 2025 the year where we embrace new beginnings. We're going to open our hearts and show the kids and ourselves that love is always possible, no matter where we start. I really appreciate you guys coming to tonight's show. And I want you guys to remember that we are going to be live 7 nights a week. We're going to be starting at around about the same time every night. And I want you guys to make sure that you remember to slide by on Wednesday to touch base with Sarah and ask all the questions that you can possibly ask. We should be flooded with questions. That is the goal, is to be flooded with questions on Wednesday. And then remember that we're going to be covering, after tomorrow's questions and comments from the fans, we're going to be covering what went south in the government from this past week. We're going to be talking about that on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about some business and finance investment opportunities, covering some stocks, updating you guys on a dividend rotation platform, and then letting you guys know where we're planning on going and what we're planning on doing with the rest of our money. With that being said, I'm going to ask you guys, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And then fellas, we're 75% male-driven podcast from the male perspective. While the ladies can benefit from this and make themselves self-made millionaires, fellas, I'm doing this for y'all. I'm giving you guys all the tools and resources that you guys need to be successful. And that requires you guys to not just think about it, get out there and go do it. Any comments that are positive that pops up into the comment section during the outro will be in the comment section. So just make sure that you put it up there and you put it out there right. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.